Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one drink, let we rule them all. Hope people remember your thoughts. Get your Uru feathers and your Middle-earth guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword plus one. Usually wins till it will get you to come. To the big tank. To the big tank. The Rocky Mountain big tank.
Hi, I'm Guy,
Hi, I'm Troy.
and this is Geek Tank.
The odds may forever be in your favorite size podcast.
Today we have our dear friend Bakudan back again
Yay!
to visit with us, and we will talk about all kinds of awesome things.
This guy says that not knowing
Since
what that.
I wasn't here, I will find out what awesome things we are talking about.
That's right.
right
You have
now.
no idea. I kept it a total secret from you
Total secret.
because you were off drawing. You were
I was.
doodling, but not diddling that I know of. All right. So the topic for tonight is actually kind of looking into the good and the bad of gamification, but more specifically, looking into how some games can give a false sense of achievement and in an increase of skill. So I have
Hello, Brent.
so I have a friend who likes to explore this topic. He himself is not a huge video game player, but he does do a lot of stuff that requires hours and hours of practice of skill to get better at it. So he's a professional juggler. And so he was looking at games where someone just spends some money or happens to get a weapon that's extremely powerful, could do better in a game than someone without that weapon, although they may not necessarily be a better player than the other person, whereas their equipment is outdoing their skill. He wrote this up in 3 propositions with a conclusion. So I'll jump in here and read these, and then we can chew them over and look at the different aspects of them.
That sounds interesting.
So proposition number 1, a sense of accomplishment is connected to us feeling a sense of purpose. Proposition number 2, if we sword fight face to face, the more skilled fighter will win. This is a justified sense of skill. Proposition number 3, video games allow for increase in equipment and abilities that are not tied to the intent skill of the player. If we take our sword fight to VR and my sword does 10 damage and yours does 1, I will win. Conclusion, video games give us a sense of doing something better that is unrelated to any improvement in our skill. So
I had often thought back in the days when I was like totally going to create the ultimate games of all sort of ultimates and everything in my 20s, I had thought about a game where like the level 1 character couldn't hit anything. So you put your mouse over the target and you're going to go boom, 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 boom. But the more times you did that, the more the scatter pattern would get tighter and tighter and tighter, so that, you know, essentially your character would get better, you know.
Right. And with that as an example, that would mean you could have 2 players that are of same skill, but just because one's been playing longer, they have an advantage, even though because it's reflected in the game, not in their skill.
Right. Well, I guess it'd be a matter of, I kind of in my head envisioned it being like Star Trek.
Right. Well, no,
I click on Troy, and you know, if the character has a level 1 skill, the phasers just go pew 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 pew, and 1 might hit you. But as when I become a level 10, I click on Troy, and all the phasers go pew 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 pew.
Yeah,
you know.
They do something similar in the Grand Theft Auto games, and it's tying the more your avatar in the game does a thing, the better your avatar gets.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I don't like Grand Theft Auto though.
Right. But
hello, rebellious pastry.
So I think part of the aspect of looking at this is pulling people in. The bad part of this would be using it to make money, and as Brent had mentioned earlier, pay to win. if you have the money in some games to just pay, you're going to be better at it by default of having access to resources such as a +10 sword versus a regular 1-point sword that the poor person didn't. I remember this is one of the big things that drove me away from Magic competitively. Magic the Gathering is essentially that. To acquire the best cards to win in a tournament requires the money to purchase those cards. So if you're coming into the game with very little funding, then it's really difficult to play better than someone else since you're dealing with less resources.
Fair.
But this is a huge topic to bite off, so there's lots of angles to look at it.
So B-Dan hasn't even said one word. I'm not even sure his mic works. So what's your opinion on this?
He's like, I'm on the wrong podcast.
I have got several opinions on this. And it's I think the biggest flaw in this argument is that all games are the same. And they very much are not. And in some games, such a concept would work, but not in every game. The first thing I think of when I think of a skilled game that you have to be skilled to play is a fighting game. Yep. And there are fighting game tournaments where people win real money. And many of them, of course, hosted by the creators or by the publishers. But the Mortal Kombat 11 World Championships either are taking place or have recently taken place, and the winner came away with $250,000. So in that regard, you cannot purchase an advantage. Skill is the only advantage that you can have, and it only comes from repetitive playing. So that's the ultimate problem that I have with this statement that your friend generated is that it assumes all games are that way.
And I think that comes from him not having the diverse background of playing a lot of video games too. So, but yeah, you definitely have a point. The games run a huge range of what they represent like that. And fighting games, I remember one of the things that bothered me, I think it was Soul Calibur 4 or 5, they added this feature of equipment that altered your stats. And I was like, why are we doing this? You're just supposed to be good at the fighting game, not have better equipment for it. But I think they were trying to cross that line between RPG and fighting games.
And I have my own opinions on Soul Calibur anyway.
I like Soul Calibur.
It's okay to like Soul Calibur. That's fine.
Okay.
But you just have to remember what you like. What it is that you're liking is not a good game. So
I like fighting Alex. I got nothing on this one. I guess I should say I like losing to Alex.
I was going to say, fighting Alex is a losing proposition in a fighting game. But there are games. What I think of, Mortal Kombat I mentioned earlier, not exactly a deep game, but when you get into something like the Guilty Gear series, which are extremely complex, and there's a lot of back and forth going on. Skill is absolutely essential. But the idea that you could buy a better sword for Jeanhua and then suddenly she can't be beat, that's ridiculous.
I remember with this, when my friend had first proposed this, it was actually to a larger group of people on Facebook. And the way it originally was worded was leveling up creates a false sense of skill, and not having the background in games. I was trying to point out too, like how one of my favorite games, Skyrim, it's very clear that you're not leveling up your personal skill. You're leveling up that character in the story skill, which is allowing the character in the story to progress and do things that they couldn't do before. And I don't know of any gamers who think I have a level 55 character, therefore I'm a better player than you. But I'm sure they're out there. And to a degree, because I've played so much, I do have knowledge outside of the game that I could give to somebody who just starts playing, saying, oh, you need to go to this town to do this quest that they don't know yet because they have yet to play and learn that stuff. But what was mentioned earlier too, the pay to win, where I see this, the ugly side of this, it's tapping into that instant gratification of I did a thing and now I've got this other thing and now I feel like I have this accomplishment and I've succeeded at this. Being mobile games and other games where you buy your power ups as you play along, the microtransactions.
Well, and in a way, that's becoming the new
Model,
we don't
business
have
model.
Yeah, business model, and it's too bad we don't have Chelsea here to go riot us on this one. But I mean, that's a thing, and I kind of think about this. I'm a big No Man's Sky player, and I bought No Man's Sky, at version 1,
Mm-hmm.
and they have been faithful, and they have been updating, and it has gotten prettier and prettier and more insane. And I think, I mean, I paid $30 because I got it on a half price sale. And all of this over the last like 2.5 years, I've not paid them another dime. I actually kind of feel like they should start a Patreon or something so that I can pay them, because I feel like I have gotten much more than my $30 out of No Man's Sky. I'm 400 hours into that game. That's the longest I've ever played any game in my life.
Mm-hmm. Do they have downloadable stuff that you can buy and add to it?
It just they just update it, and then you get it. I mean, part of the drawback is, you have the awesomest world ever that you built your base on, and they'll update it, and the seeds change, and suddenly you're on some volcanic nightmare. But that's okay. It's like an expectation you have with No Man's Sky. But I mean, each one of these updates and they're coming up with another update, and it's a big deal. And like when the updates happen, the entire No Man's Sky community starts to buzz. We've got hints that another one's coming up, and yada yada. Like, we have our own culture. Mm-hmm. And so I bought my son a copy of it, and then we bought my wife a copy just because I feel bad.
It's such a great game. You want to spread the enjoyment of it too.
Right? We've all enjoyed it so much.
I don't remember how many copies of StarCraft and Diablo 2 I bought for friends, because it's a multiplayer game. It's a fun game, and I want more people to play it with me. Was the idea. So speaking of, I haven't played No Man's Sky yet, but it does do a thing that a lot of video games do, where that creates this sense of, it's a weird sense of accomplishment and enjoyment, and that is building something that requires time and involvement. I don't play Minecraft, but I play Terraria, which is like the 2D version of it. And I've got these really cool castles that I've built, and I've had to build it brick by brick in the game. And it's one of these things that if I could just harness that focus to clean my house,
right, we'd be completely spotless by now.
Yeah, but I
mean, somebody built the entire Enterprise D in Minecraft. That's a massive starship, like shuttle bays and transporter rooms and the whole thing. That's insane. I almost bought Minecraft just to explore this shit. Like, how long does it take to walk from one end to the other on the Enterprise D? I mean, I want to know.
Apparently, it's a thing to build waffle houses in the Nether, which is their version of hell.
Okay. That makes some sense now.
Because a friend of mine had posted this really awesome picture of someone who built a great replica of a Waffle House and the molten lava and everything around it. I'm like, yeah, that's Kentucky. It's in the summer.
Right? We should do a giveaway for a game we promote. We should do that. That'd be fun.
We'd have to get the game first.
Get the company to give us the game first.
Yep.
We have to figure that one out, but that's all right.
Any case, that's a neat aspect of gaming that I always found interesting is the hours that I will put into something could even be meaningless in the game. So like in Skyrim, there's very little purpose for collecting books other than some books will increase a skill level, but they have tons of books in that game. And so anytime I find a book, I collect it to add to my imaginary library in the video game. And so it's crafting it and customizing it to what you enjoy out of a video game. Cat wants some attention there.
Oh, I was noticing that Dustin's he loves the Waffle House on Highway 119 at 3 a.m. So are we, Dustin, are you implying that Highway 119 is actually really hell? Because actually, I've been down that highway and not actually going to disagree with you on that. Just saying. Yeah, Star Wars Galaxy is another one that's the other side of it, is like auto bans and things like that. And you've got paying customers and they're getting banned because they're violating terms of service, or not violating terms of service, but the mods felt like they were.
What was that game we played when you were in Japan? We found a game we could play for free online. I think it was called like Maple Leaf or Maple Story.
Oh yeah, Maple Leaf. Yeah, Maple Story. Yeah, it was Maple Story.
And there was like this glitch that happened that made me invulnerable. And then, of course, after like a half hour, the game's like, "You're cheating," and then I got banned for a week. And I wrote them and said, "I don't know what's happening. It's a glitch. Can you help me fix it?" And of course, there was no interaction. And then I couldn't play anymore.
So we gave up on it.
Gave up.
But I remember that we started that, and it looked like a lot of fun. It was kind of like a Mamog. It was like it was kind of a Mamog, cute anime-esque. I don't know.
But it was our way of staying in touch and doing things while you were in Japan,
right? Because that was the days during the birth of Facebook, when
right.
we were all like, I don't know.
But yeah, these things have these problems of course, getting booted for not even cheating, and then there are, of course, relentless cheaters. A thing that I found interesting too, and I knew we would get way off topic on this, but that's fine because that's what we do. But I introduced my kids to Counter-Strike, and they are playing, and they will do the thing where when one dies, you can go around as a ghost and look at other stuff, and they would tell the other person where they are, and I'm like, "Hey guys, don't do that. It's basically cheating." And of course, they're of the mindset, well, other people are doing it. I'm like, that doesn't make cheating okay. So,
Muds and BBSs. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, too many hours in Muds and BBSs.
Isn't that the truth?
But going back to this idea of a sense of accomplishment, I don't think
I have played.
Sorry. I've played a lot of games for a lot of years, and I don't think I have ever personally felt a sense of accomplishment at a game.
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy playing them. I don't feel like, like I did when I got my black belt.
Right.
That was a sense of accomplishment.
You did something for that.
Yeah, but I've never felt that when playing a game. So I once again, I question where your friend is coming from with this assumption.
I'm not sure if he had an interaction with somebody that like soured that opinion or something.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, because you were saying that, and I'm like, gosh, when I got my black belt, all I had was a sense of terror, sheer abject terror. It's just like sort of the way I felt. And then when it was all over and I had actually like gotten the marks that said I had gotten the black belt, I was like, oh, thank God it's all over. It was like, you're like, I accomplished this. And I'm like, oh my God, I made it. So I don't know. I mean, maybe because I do feel like I've accomplished stuff. Like I now have a farm in No Man's Sky, and I farm all the things that makes the most expensive item to sell on the market. So every day I get into the game and I go and, I till my crops and I grab all the things and then I build the big things and sell them on the market and end up, 1.2 million units richer. And I don't know if that's a sense of accomplishment, but whenever I got to the point where all of that was there, so I could just have that running, that was great.
I'm trying to think of a comparison, and I think for me, because I wouldn't say I don't have some sense of accomplishment, but it's definitely very different than what people think of as a sense of accomplishment. And it's like finishing a book. When I read a book and finish it, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I made it through the book. I read it. I can check that little box off. So completing a game, like I've completed Assassin's Creed 1, I can check that box off. So it's kind of like that. And then if it was a good story, like with a book, I can look back on it and go, that was a fun way to spend time because I got to explore this story and be done with it. And then there's some games, of course, that have next to zero story, or where the story doesn't matter in the slightest. Like fighting games have gotten a lot better and they have cool stories with them, but you don't need to know where Chun-Li was born to hit the kick button 1,000 times and kick someone to death. But there is a thing with getting back to fighting games. I do remember back in arcade days of beating that person that just dropped their quarter in to challenge you to play. There is a sense of accomplishment in that because, as you said, it does take skill to know the moves of the character you're playing and to be able to kind of read and know the moves of the character you're fighting and the person playing that character and how they're going to do it.
That
And to be
actually
fair-
makes sense, especially in an arcade environment like that.
Mhm.
And I've had people come up. There was a time when I was ridiculously good at Virtua Fighter 3, and I would be at Sega City down at the not at the Mills, but the Rich People Mall down south. I can't remember what it's called. Park
Southwood
Meadows.
Plaza.
No, it's
No,
it's
Park
down by
Meadows.
the tech center. In any case, Park Meadows. Yes,
Okay.
Sega City used to be down there, and I remember I was playing on the arcade machine, and a guy comes up with his friend. He's like, "I'll beat this guy real quick, and then you and me can play." And I was like, "Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah." And that was the last of that, as I stomped him into the ground and then continued playing, and he and his friend wandered off. So I suppose that has a sense of accomplishment. But once again, I didn't purchase that sense of accomplishment,
Right.
unless you think by purchase it was all the quarters I put into the machine and all the time I spent playing on it.
Right.
But that applies to like real life because that involves time invested into getting a black belt.
Yeah, or into learning to juggle, any of these things. So
Centipede trackball. So Cherry Creek Mall, maybe?
no, it was not Cherry Creek. Cherry
That
Creek
guy's
didn't have a
wife who
proper
walked by.
arcade. It's definitely Park Meadows.
Rebellious Pastry. We miss NDK too. Although NDK is like 2 weeks from now, and I'm super stressed out. So there's
Yeah, it's coming up.
It's going to happen as far as we know.
Yeah, and I'm super stressed out. So, and B-Dan's like, ha, sucker.
Yeah.
I tried to tell you.
You tried to warn me.
No.
But then they said you can keep all of like the information, and you'd be like the keeper of the information. I was like, oh yeah, sounds really good. And you're like, gotcha. Oh damn it!
I know this is a flawed
I know, right?
a flawed philosophy, but a philosophy that I like to throw out sometimes is you choose your own pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not always the case, but how you choose to deal with the pain that you have to deal with is also a choice you're making. So choosing to bite off all of NDK was a choice you made. And now you have to swallow it, guy.
I know. It sucks so much. It's so sucky. That's okay though.
I'm trying to. So the positives to gamification too. My brother-in-law does the esports stuff, and taking a gamification aspect of leveling up and applying it to actually learning stuff in school does that thing where you are getting better and skilled at something, not necessarily at the game itself, but at whatever it is you're having to learn. What was that? I remember one time someone who was trying to help one of my kids with getting better habits. There's a app called Habitia or something like that, but it
Yeah, I
turns.
remember that. It was like you turned it into a game or something.
Yeah, you had a little D&D style character, and you would assign different things like doing the dishes, getting homework done. You'd give plug in these tasks that would give certain points and level up your character. And as you completed the tasks in real life, you would check them off and get those adventures done in the game. And so it was making it more of a game to get real life stuff done, which is a positive aspect of gamifying things.
Yeah, that worked really. That's kind of cool.
And then, of course, the negative aspect is when we're getting into like the pay to win loot boxes and such. And I don't play a ton of first person games. So before we'd started, I was looking up some things, and a game that we found that apparently is straight up pay to win is called APB Reloaded. And it sounds like you just outright spend money to buy better weapons. So, which I guess that attracts people who have money and want to play based on who has the most money with the best guns.
Yeah. Or I mean, you can go into the app store, any app store, and look for the rich person's app. The app is several $100 usually, and all it is to say, "Hey, I blew $400 on this app to show that I could." And it's that same mindset. Yeah, I know, guy, right?
Why are they not doing that on like my art?
You need
That's what I want to know.
to make a piece and call it the $500 piece to
Yep.
up the one
Right?
person who has the $400 piece.
What was it, that guy that like he said he invented like this piece that was just this, and when you bought it he had like these special rules for how you could present this empty square of nothing, and it was like, oh my god, I heard about this last week, and I'm like, that's not real. And then I looked it up, and it's real, and someone bought it for like $1.2 million.
Because they can.
And it's like, you people have way too much money and you're not giving it to me. And this is the flaw.
Yeah.
I'll make a piece of art that's this. Here, I made it.
It's how you sell that art.
Right.
That's what it comes
That's
down
right.
to.
And the trick is to do it like Banksy and have a built-in shredder at the bottom of the frame. So after the auction hammer comes down, it just shreds it.
I loved that. I loved it so much. It warmed my black and shriveled heart.
That's exactly what Brent's saying over there, too.
Oh, my microphone was in the way. I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So go back through the points again. My brain is gone. I've
No,
forgotten.
that's fine. And we talked about this a little bit on Sunday. Dan and I did, and we were talking about how in real life belt ranks represent leveling up too.
And the American martial arts tradition of colored belt ranks is absolutely giving people a small bit on the trail there to keep them moving up towards eventually the black belt. There's a whole marketing decision behind that. Sorry, brain is gone.
Yeah, because originally wasn't it just like
'cause-
white, brown, black for most?
No, it was white belt until 6 years later the master says you're now a black belt.
Yeah, you made Shodan, and that was black belt.
Yeah, and that was it.
Then there were degrees above that where,
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically you can get to it, but like my master made it to all of a whopping 8th degree when he died, you know? And it's like, so, I mean, the point is that you could, and he was 7th degree the entire time I was in the dojo, and he would test every time. And he finally made 8th degree like 5 years after I moved back here, and it was like a big deal. And then he died a year later, and it was like, you couldn't even make 9th degree. So, you know,
We probably made 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
true.
All right. So first step, a sense of accomplishment is connected to us feeling a sense of purpose, which applies again to these belt ranks. Because if you spend a couple of months doing something, you may or may not notice that you're getting better at not falling over when you're kicking, or you may not notice that your stance is actually better as you perform your forms or your katas, but you don't have anything to really show for it. And by attaching a rank up in belt, then they actually have something physical to represent and say, look, I've achieved this. I've learned this thing and I've proven I've learned this thing. Heck, college degrees. Hey, someone just leveled up. They found a secret, I mean.
Sorry, that was my phone.
All right. So that was the first one. The
Animation. Yeah.
Second one, if we sword fight face to face, the more skilled fighter will win. This is justified sense of skill. And this is, as we're talking about, this does relate to fighting games, because fighting games does, to know how to do a dragon punch or a fireball in Street Fighter, you got to practice it and know it.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of esports, in games like Overwatch, which was designed in a lot of ways to be an esport, and of course they've made a lot of money on it, skill does matter. and knowledge of the game does matter. I have a friend that could be a pro player if he wanted to, but he has a real job and a life outside of Overwatch, despite all of his hours in Overwatch. But yeah, once again, you can't buy anything in Overwatch that changes the fundamentals of the game. All you can do is buy costumes and colors and spray paints and poses.
Which that's the same thing I've got with Black Desert Online. Same thing. It's you can just buy cute outfits for the characters, and that's awesome. I'm okay with that. I was actually willing to spend extra money.
I'm only laughing because the one time I played, of course, I'm first level because it's the one time I played, and you were like level 10 or 20 or something. I don't remember. You and Kevin were way up there in levels, and you guys are just following me from like a safe distance, and you're watching this other guy following me who's like level 3 or 4, just like trying to start a fight to kill me. And the two of you are just laughing, like him not realizing he's way outclassed by my friends behind me.
It was actually even funnier because I was playing Witch, and the Witch is way out of balance in her first 5 levels, which is why I played her. So you were playing like the Barbarian, who gets nothing but a rock for the first 5 levels. That's pretty much all you get. Whereas Witch gets like 3 spells or 4 spells, so she already has like spell slots loaded. And this guy's like chasing you, and he wants to fight with you. Mm-hmm. And you were like, you were trying to hit him, but he kept doing more damage.
I remember what it was. He couldn't attack me until I attacked him, so he was trying to jump in front of my attacks with the NPC creature, so I would accidentally hit him and trigger a fight.
Right. And so he did. You accidentally hit him, and that made it so that he could fight you. But he was only like level 6 or level 7. So I just torched him.
But it made it so you guys could fight him too, because
we were team.
We were partied. Yeah.
And he didn't know that. And I'm like, so you were trying to TPK this guy. You're a level 5 something. You're trying to TPK some rando playing the game, learning to play the game, and didn't realize that the rando had a party, and the party had a witch. And I was like, it was just really funny because I just torched him and he died. And then he came back and tried it again. That was the funny part, was he tried it again.
It's because I torched him. I was intentionally running around half naked because I was doing a comedy bit. I was playing the old adventurer who had amnesia and should have been retired because he sucked at adventuring, and so that's why I was justifying being level 1. It's like, I don't remember how to do this, but I'm sure I'm awesome at it. But yeah, that was my one time with Black. I was going to say Black Forest, but Black Desert Online.
Black Desert Online.
Black Forest.
Black Forest Online does delicious cakes.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. Now, one of the things, though, I play games for the exact same reason or video games for the exact same reason that I play board games, or for that matter, RPGs, or even Magic. I love these war stories. This is my bread and butter, telling stories about, the stupid things that happened because this guy tried to TPK Troy and I had a witch and I just nuked him. That's funny. That was a funny story, and that's what I live for. Now, I don't even have to be the awesome one in my stories. There are a number of stories I tell where I was stupid.
I still tell people that story about Serious Sam. You remember that guy? Serious Sam. It was a first-person shooter.
Yes.
We're getting completely off topic here.
That's what we do.
Yep. And one of the weapons was a grenade that would bounce. So we come across an area, and there's like 6 of us playing all together at the old Greenwood. And we come across an area where there's a hole in the ground about that big. And everybody's trying to lob their grenades into that little hole. And guy's like, no, guys, you don't get it. That's not how it works. Just go up to it and shoot straight down. So what he does is he goes up, shoots straight down, it hits the bottom, comes back up, and explodes and hits him. What we see is, no, guys, let me show you how this is done. Boom! And guy is Gibbs everywhere, and we're like, that's awesome, now we want to do it.
The best part is everybody else is like, woo!
Yeah. But it was just that moment of guy not realizing that it was going to bounce and that it was going to arm after it bounced and hit him, and create this extraordinary spectacle that we still talk about to this day.
To this day, I just think it was like, no, I got this. Boom.
It was beautiful.
That's the curse of watch this now.
Yeah.
I was doing something similar to that with Aliens TC. Like, came around the corner and an alien went, psh, and I had the rocket launcher, boom, and point blank, and blew myself and everybody else away.
Yeah, but you killed the alien by
I got the alien, though. I feel like if a cockroach was ever in my house, this would be the exact same response that we had. Hence why I live in Denver and not, say, in Texas.
In Texas, yeah. I've seen Texas roaches.
Yep.
So Donald's mentioning World of Warcraft, which I know Chelsea played a ton of. I've not played it. Have either of you two played it?
Nope.
No, I managed to avoid that.
My that was one. It wasn't the first. I think EverQuest was the first pay the subscription fee thing. But that's what steered me away from World of Warcraft, because it was a subscription thing, and I was playing Diablo 2 very heavily at the time, and I'm like, I can play Diablo 2 online for free because I bought the game and now I get to play the game. And it was the get off my lawn with your monthly subscription, you dang kids attitude that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up avoiding it, but also because I knew if I tried it, I knew I would get addicted to it and have to pay every month, because that's how I am. I get addicted to these kinds of things.
Plus, WoW is engineered to do exactly that.
Yep.
You guys could have a whole separate episode on
WoW.
You guys could seriously do a whole separate episode on how WoW is engineered to addict people and keep them coming back.
Well, we got to have Chelsea for that one for sure.
Oh, okay. But I get a similar thing to when I'm playing Fallout 76. Is I'll get people. I had a guy come in and just came, and bases in general are open. I have a vending machine there. I want people to come into my base and buy the old junk I'm not doing anything with. Sure. And so I had a guy come in and he's just shooting at me and shooting at me and shooting at me. And it's the same thing. Unless I shoot him back, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to do any damage to me. And so I don't understand that mindset. And eventually at a certain point I just sort of like gestured like, what are you doing? And but there's always going to be people like that. Yeah, hey, Brent's got a good point. Where is Chelsea?
It's so funny.
I don't know what this week's situation
Monday,
is.
so Chelsea could be here more often, and she hasn't been here yet.
Oh.
Well, I know she had some family thing one week, and then there was some school thing another week, and it's just the fates keep throwing something at her. Yeah, and it keeps pulling her away from it. And then, of course, NDK's coming up, which she's lieutenant for the dealer's room, which has been changed to the exhibitor's room, which is more fun to call it the exhibitionist room.
Absconded with her. We can blame Dustin for some of this. I think Dustin's absconded with her a little.
Oh, that too. Yeah, she's one of the front lead things on the role playing game, Deathwood, and
that he's working on. Yeah.
So she's super busy.
He's just it's Dustin's fault. I blame Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, right. She's with Waldo or Carmen Sandiego. Yeah.
Okay, and so back to this thing here. Okay, if we got the skill thing. So then, video games allow for increase in equipment and abilities that are not tied to the. And I don't know if this was a typo or if I'm just reading this wrong. Tied to the intent skill of the player. If we take our sword fight to VR, then whoever has the better equipment is going to win. That's not
disagree that too.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'll disagree with VR.
There's not a lot of things I feel like I can say I've got 10,000 to the old Outliers concept of doing 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. There's not a lot of things I've done 10,000 hours in, but sword fighting's got to be one of those because I started sword fighting at 9 years old.
Yeah,
and been sword fighting a lot, not recently, but I think that even if I had a 1-point sword versus someone with a 10-point sword, unless if they were skilled enough, I think I could still take them. Granted, I have to hit them a whole lot more than they would have to hit me. But I could see how that could give them a false sense of skill if they were to beat me, because I clearly am the one who is the better sword fighter. And like, well, if I can beat him, then obviously I'm the better one. But it's I guess where would I'm trying to think of games I've played where that might be a thing, and I don't tend to play games where you can buy stuff that affects video games where you buy stuff that can affect your performance, unless if you consider equipment in real life, like having a better internet, faster computer, maxed out mouse, that kind of stuff. I could see
those things are 1% to 3% improvements. Those are the kind of thing when you're playing pro for real and you're pushing the very bleeding edge of your skill, then having the equipment that gives you that much more of an edge can be important, because 1% to 3% matters at that level of skill.
Because everyone else is about the same level of skill as you.
Potentially, yes. If we're translating, say we translate our skills into numbers, everybody wants to be a 10. Your pro player is going to be a 9.6523. As close to 10 as they possibly can be, and specialized gear and specialized mice can push that percentage just a little bit higher, and at that level, that matters. You're that much closer to a 10. But you and me playing and flailing against each other, going, "Oh, ha ha, I hit you." Yeah, no, that's not going to change our lives.
Wow. That was a noise.
Yeah, not having played at the level, it's hard for me to know. And I mean, when I very first played the original Team Fortress back in, gosh, when would that have been? The late 90s, early 2000s?
Something like that.
I had like a tin can set up for my internet. So I had to play the engineer, because the engineer could build an AI gun to shoot people. And the AI gun was not restricted to my internet because it's on the server. So, but when I would try to shoot somebody with my pistol, I would always be missing because of the lag. So that was of course a huge jump in ability, and you don't see quite that much these years. The internet stuff's a lot closer now.
Yeah, the internet and good infrastructure for the internet is much more prevalent. So people may gripe about lag, but ultimately,
we're moving at really serious speeds.
Yeah.
And I just downloaded a file while on this show that was 2 gigabytes, and it took 4 minutes, 5 minutes, running a little slow because we're online. But I mean, that's still 500 megs.
Brent has brought up how most of the pay to win type stuff you do see more on cell phone and mobile games than you do online. And I guess it was I guess 2 years now when you and I did the Star Trek game on the mobile app. That was an example of that, because you would set your crew to do stuff, and then a timer would appear, and you could spend real money to lower that timer and play faster, or you could stick your phone away for a half hour and then look at it again, and your crew would be done doing whatever they're doing. So, yeah, it's just the pay
Battle
to
Tech
not
was a
be.
good example of that too.
What was
talking about that?
Oh, I've never played BattleTech.
So, well,
Or, I mean, I've played BattleTech.
We had an older version of BattleTech, and that was exactly what happened. You'd lag out just as you launched all your missiles or whatever, and then you'd overheat and shut down, and you wouldn't know it because the system got the trigger and then got the command to fire the missiles, but never got the command that the trigger was let up. And so you just keep firing and firing and firing, and you're like, I only wanted to fire like 4. And then you'd come back and you were half dead because you had shut down from overheat. And then while you were shut down, the other guy is coming over and just shooting you in the head, because you're shut down. And I was like, oh, that was miserable.
I
remember that.
Yep.
The tabletop game of BattleTech I had a lot of fun with, and we experimented with crafting our own battle mechs or battle. Yeah, and this was before they actually ended up making this So it wasn't that original of an idea. But I'm like, I'm going to make one that has no weapons, is purely armor, as heavy as he can be, and run as fast as he can, and call him the Rhino. And I was because the day I looked at I min maxed it. I'm like, okay, when you run into somebody, the damage you do is 10 times the number of spaces you move. Or it's your weight divided by 10, then times the number of spaces you move. So if you're a 100-ton mech, you now get 10 when you divide it by 10. Move 6 spaces, you now do 60 points of damage, which was more than any of the weapons did.
Yep.
And I'm like, I just want to run into someone. But you remember how damage was randomized.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you would take half damage from running into somebody. And the first time I tried it out, all the damage went to my head. And of course, that's where you keep that's where the pilot lives for some stupid reason. And so I was like, great, you have this battle mech pilot who tries to headbutt another mech from the cockpit and seat.
Yeah, that was one of my. I had a great argument about that one. Well, because the lambs, the land air mechs, were effectively Valkyries from Robotech, and so we were playing Mech Warrior, which was the role-playing game version of it.
In a Robotech, they're in the chest.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's because that's where the cockpit folds down to,
Right.
And so all that happens is that the chair turns inside there from here in the cockpit to here, and then a shield locks down on place, and all your controls come up. And so, first time I'm out there and I'm running a Phoenix Hawk, which is effectively Valkyrie with a fast pack, and I'm shooting and stuff like that. Well, you took a hit to your head. You're dead. And I'm like, what? Why would I be dead? I'm down here in the chest. Nope. Okay, well, I'm going to build a new character, but this time I'm going to take out like 50 tons of weight by removing whatever mechanism moves my stupid chair up into the head. They invented cameras by now, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've always had a problem with robots that can be killed by damaging their head.
Yes.
Ultron was repeatedly, Ultron bots died by getting shot in the head, and I'm like, Ultron doesn't, never mind.
Mm-hmm. It's really one of those, I'm not sure it's worth the fight, but it sure does irritate me too.
Yeah.
It's as irritating as when robots turn evil, their eyes have to change color.
Right? They have
Exactly.
to be red. That's how you know they're evil.
Yeah, otherwise they're not evil.
It was established by Short Circuit back in 1988.
We're just saying.
I see Rebellious Pastry has asked the question where to find these good games. I'm not sure which good games because there's different iterations of BattleTech, and the one I was talking about.
The newest BattleTech's an RTS,
real-time
and
strategy.
it's on Steam. And I just got it because it was on sale. I haven't played it yet, but it's an RTS. It's not a first-person shooter. It's a real-time strategy. So
And
that actually
not
intrigues
turn-based.
me in this period of my life now. I'm no longer really. I'm more of an RTS guy. So
do you know if it has an option to be turn-based like the original tabletop?
I think it is turn-based, but I don't think it's. But it's not. Or I guess it's probably TTS.
Yeah, because real-time
TBS.
would be like
It's
StarCraft.
TBS. It's colorized.
Yeah, StarCraft doesn't wait for you to make a decision. The other players
It
keep
might be
doing their
turn-based.
stuff.
I actually have all I have managed to do so far is go through the opening cutscene. That's it. That's all I've managed so far. So I'm not 100% sure what it does. So
Well, we need to play it together if it's a 2-player game.
yes, I will do that.
BattleTech, looking on Steam, it is turn-based.
Nice.
Thank you. I didn't check. It just looked cool.
Ooh, it's also on sale right now for $10.
Yep, that's not bad actually. I think that's what I paid for it.
Well, I hope so.
It'd be irritating if
That sucks when you buy something and then it immediately goes on sale.
Right.
Hey. All right. I'm trying to think because I want to
real quickly, just to say, just so you guys all know, Geek Tank is sponsored by Shiny Garden Geekway Homes and Kieran Games and your mom. Okay, sorry, had to say it because it's important. It's critical.
It is. How do I look at my games? I might already have it.
Oh man, they made a rule book for Mobile Frame Zero, which Mobile Frame Zero is the coolest little game ever.
Oh yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Mom.
another tabletop game.
Mobile Frame Zero is a tabletop game where you take Legos and you make mecha about yay big, and then you have identifiers on there to identify their weapons or their shields or things like that. And it's a very simple set of rules. You put it on the table and you can move one set of 4 Lego bits at per move is one move. So if it's a fast mech, it has a move of like 5, so it'll move 5 of those or whatever. If it's a slow mech, it moves 1. And of course, the best part about it, of course, is when you shoot somebody else's Lego mech, they have to take the arm off and disassemble it and make the little pieces go, because that's the best part about it, So anyway, but I've noticed that the Mobile Frame Zero rules, very simple, not very complicated rules, are great for all of the other mech games. Like I've been playing the Robotech tactical tabletop game that Palladium put out that became a complete disaster and caught fire and everything like that.
Yeah, well, like why?
Because I bought it for the minis, obviously.
Kickstarter.
And now I have 2 boxes of them because Dustin dropped off another box and said, "I got this for you." And I'm like, "Yeah!" So now I'm just making minis all day long. I'm happy. They are super complicated and I don't care. So it works for me. I'm perfectly content.
Well, the great thing is you have so many other games you can just swipe their rules set from and use these minis for.
And I'll just use the minis. And then Troy found a box full of like cardboard buildings at the same scale.
Yeah.
So I can just build little buildings and little streets, and then these you can drive through the streets, and you got battle pods going through it, and you got, I'm happy. I don't see nothing wrong with this plan. As
long as you're happy, that's all that matters.
That's what is it Alex said? Do you get the dopamine hit off of it? Then it's worth it. He's right. It's like...
So I'm trying to look for the positive spin on this, and I think the thing is the takeaway is when you involve yourself in any kind of video game play, it's worth, I think, taking a few minutes to analyze what are you getting out of this and how is it enjoyable to you, which I think most people probably do.
But you're getting the dopamine hit, then it's worth it.
I think there's probably some video games that I play out of addiction and not out of enjoyment. I find myself being drawn back to some games that I'll put in, but then I quickly go, this is not a fun game, and stop playing it. I'm trying to think of an example of that. Skate or Die might be one of those, or I think it's Skate 3 is actually what it's called.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays I'm more laid back. I like to, well, kind of bringing this back around, I think a lot of the stuff that I do now is for a sense of accomplishment. I play Sims. And, when I played Sims back in the 90s, early 2000s, yes, I killed every Sim and creatively and everything like that. But I've gotten over that. You know what I mean? That was fun back then, but now I'm in Sims 4 and I'm trying really, really hard to keep my Sims going to work and going to school and doing their things and coming home and having a reasonable life and actually managing to clean up after themselves and all of this stuff. And once the household starts operating, that's a sense of accomplishment. There is a sense of accomplishment there.
I'd always build a house and then go no further in that game.
Building houses are so much fun. It's so much fun. They just released a pack for Sims 4 that's the Japanese pack. And like the Sims now have skills like they get embarrassed if they forget to take their shoes off at the door. It's adorable. It is absolutely adorable. And so, now I'm trying to train my Sims to remember to take their shoes off at the door and stuff. So it's very cool. But I mean, that's a sense of accomplishment. When I play SimCity, same thing. Can I maximize it so that when I get my city up to a certain level and have to actually demolish Main Street and put in a highway, I don't ruin a whole bunch of businesses?
Or when the tornado hits, can you keep everyone from dying?
Right. So
back in Super Nintendo days, I was playing SimCity and fell asleep like around midnight while playing it. woke up in the morning to the entire city on fire. The whole thing was, it's like the mayor fell asleep, and now this entire city is just a wasteland and an apocalypse now.
I think the funniest part is that I actually turn off disasters now because, I mean, the normal stuff that just happens in a city is hard enough. Yeah. You get to a certain point and there's just not enough fire stations. That's hard enough. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, hello, Joan. So, it's funny. I just think that's funny. I don't know.
Well,
But
cool.
yeah, I think I hear what B-Dan's saying, and to counterpoint it, I feel like that is what I do. I play for a sense of accomplishment, to build the city that actually runs nicely, and I can now expand to this river. I had one city where the river kept overflowing and would like flood the main freeway, and I spent probably 3 hours damming the river and trying to get
Damn you, river.
Yeah, right. And trying to get like levees and all this stuff around it, and then digging out underneath it to make a nice little lake. And I mean, I worked really hard on that. And that was cool when it was done and it was no longer flooding. And I was like, yay. And traffic continued on the interstate again where it was before. And it's like, I mean, and all of that sounds so ridiculously stupid when I say it out loud.
Well, it's like I was saying, you put in all of this work, and if you could have only focused it on cleaning your house,
Right? My house would be spotless if I had done as much work on my house as I did on that stupid levee.
Mm-hmm. So, real quick, I know we're running out of time, but real quick, I'll start with you, Guy. What was your first video game system that really like drew you in?
I actually had an Atari. I had the Atari, what was it, 2600?
2600? Mm-hmm.
No, that's right. My dad.
Your
My dad had a K-Pro, which was an IBM, not even an 8086. It was those really, really early IBMs. And so the first game that drew me in was Ladder, which was Donkey Kong, except those early K-Pros with the green screens that could only do green and black, they could only do letters. That's it. So it was Donkey Kong, but your little character was the letter P on a whole bunch of equals. And there were H's, and so you'd go all the way to the H, and then you climb up the H's to the next equals, and you go across that H, and when it was going the other direction, it was a Q, right? Because that's how you knew which way you were going. So, and then of course O's were being dropped from the top.
Of course,
it was Donkey Kong. I also, Dad had a Texas Instruments TI 99.4A, which had Parsec in it. And
Parsec.
was so cool.
Yes.
Parsec was the game. I still have the Parsec cartridge here somewhere. It's in a bag because I kept it because it meant so much to me. I think I still also have that TI 99.4A out in the garage. It's probably worth nothing. But
I'm trying to find the release dates on these.
What about you, B-Dan?
The Atari 2600, a game called Star Raiders.
Oh, Star Raiders. Oh, yeah. Oh.
And it was a first-person game, and you would blast around the galaxy, and then you would warp to particular areas, and you had to hunt down the ships that totally did not look like Klingon ships at all,
right?
And blast them out. And then once you'd cleared the sector
from Klingon ships, yes.
Yep. And then once you'd cleared the sector, you would warp to another sector. Sometimes you had to warp to a star base to refill, because you would get low on energy, or you would get low on blasters or whatever. But yeah, Star Raiders absolutely was the first one for me. Nothing grabbed me like that until The Legend of Zelda on the NES.
Oh yeah.
But I would play for hours playing Star Raiders, and I was only frustrated by the fact that there was no save function because it was a freaking Atari.
Right.
So I had to start over every time.
Right. That was the sense of accomplishment, though, is when, like in Pitfall, you finally made it to the end of the stupid cartridge because you had to play from the very beginning every time you died in the stupid Pitfall.
I hate Pitfall.
I hate Pitfall. you and I could do an entire. We could sacrifice Pitfall to the gods. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I hate it.
I had to reverse engineer this because I didn't remember the exact date, but it was 1982 is when Yar's Revenge came out. So it would have been. It's not giving me the month, so depending on whether that was before September or after September, would have been. I would have either gotten it in 82 or 83 because I got the Atari 2600 package that came with Yar's Revenge in it.
Oh wow!
And so it was whatever September was that was out. And then slowly got a few other games, but yeah, there was no books, no strategy guides to look up. So with Pitfall was one of those. When does this game end?
Right.
And I never found an ending, and I don't think they ever made an ending to that game. It's just time runs out, and it's just to see how far you get within the. I think it's like 20 minutes is the timer on it. But that was my first system I got, but it didn't really. I didn't play it and go, okay, I'm a video game person now. It was before that. Of course, it was Asteroids and Pac-Man on the video game. When did those guys come out? Asteroids, because that was before Atari 2600. Asteroids, video game. Gotta look up the history real quick because I remember they got that in the office of 79. So yeah,
Warlords with the paddle controllers becoming a contact sport. Yes.
And the longer you held the little ball, it would drop off the little stuff and eat through your own castle. But yeah, Asteroids that was my first video game I played, and it was like, video games are awesome. Then when I got the Atari, I'm like, this isn't as great as I'd like it to be, but it still ate a lot of time up.
Yeah.
It wasn't until a friend of my brother's introduced me to the original Prince of Persia, because the movement of that character when he jumped and sword fought, I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Right. It's so realistic.
It's not an 8-bit guy.
It's a 16-bit guy, and it's realistic.
Exactly.
Look how realistic it is.
But that's the one where I was like,
that's I was speaking of Asteroids. I remember playing Asteroids at those tabletops at the Pizza Hut. And sadly, that Pizza Hut literally just burned down. And I drive by it every day now, looking at it, going, I just like.
Clearly, you should have been better at Asteroids.
I should have been better at Asteroids. That's the biggest problem right there.
If you would have got a high enough score, then an alien race would have come down.
It's all my fault.
Recruited you to fly off to space.
30 years later, the fire had been burning for 30 years, waiting to take the building down because
inside the Asteroids game.
Inside the Asteroids game, which probably hasn't been there. Okay, we should probably go because now we're off into left field. Yeah, not like this.
Now we are, we started in left field.
Yeah, I don't even know if we're even in the outfield. Usually, we start in the stands. I mean, really, let's be realistic here. We have to climb over the gate. We have to beat up security guards just to get back on topic.
It's closer to
realistically.
You're closer to the hot dogs that way.
True. Yeah, always true.
Well, thank you, Dan, for joining us.
No problem, guys.
Little rabbit hole run. And thank you. Of course, my brain just shut down. Thank you, Motorpool.
We got Joan. We had Rebellious Pastry. And I can't get my mouse to find everything on here. And I was like, and I think that's pretty much all we had.
I see there were 6 viewers, and I don't know if one of them was me or not.
One of them might have been you.
Might have been me.
You stop doing it. You throw off our
that means that means I'm awesome because I was part of the group.
Well, then thank you. Thank you, Troy. Excuse me. Thank you, Troy.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, that's all the time that we have for today. And I'm talking very slowly so I can get to the thing so I can hit the close button. Thank you again for joining us, P-Dan.
All right.
Until next week, I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And this was Geek Tank.